Okay, well, I'm going to start with some housekeeping while people are just getting their final seats, etc. So good evening, everybody, and thank you for taking the time to join us. I'm just going to let you know that if we have to evacuate the building for any reason, there's fire exits at the front and at the back. There's also toilets at the back area as you came into the building. If you have got a mobile with you, please could you switch it to silent or switch it off? That would be much appreciated. And also, we will be using microphones for the duration of the meeting, also in the space where we're going to open the floor for comments. And I would ask, please, if you could use the microphones and keep your voice near those microphones so that the meeting's being recorded for anybody who can't make it tonight, and also so that people in the room can hear what your comments are, because they're important. Okay, I'm speaking on behalf of Edenbridge District Residents Association. We've organised tonight's meeting because of the emerging Sevenoaks District Local Plan, which will profoundly shape this town for the next 15 years and beyond. So we need to speak up now about what we want. NEDRA are not planning experts. Tonight's points reflect an initial top-line read of many documents. Please review the parts that matter to you and reach your own conclusions. NEDRA will conduct an in-depth review of all documents over the next 7 weeks and share key findings where we can. NEDRA will submit a response, but it requires each and every person to make their own response too. Okay, let's move to the start of the meeting. Okay, so basically the agenda is we're just going to go a brief overview of the actual local plan, how is best to respond, what some of the questions might be that you want to raise, how to get your response in, and some key dates and future help. And then we're going to open the floor for everybody to make comments. So the plan for Edenbridge. The plan currently allocates 2,136 homes to Edenbridge across 17 sites. Adding what they call extant sites, those are sites with permission or have currently got planning permission or currently under construction but not finished, plus the windfall sites, it lifts the total to about 2,800. We are currently seeking clarification about the extant sites, where they are. We know where some of them are, but we're looking to see whether we can find out where all those sites are. So roughly, from the previous local plan, which was 1,534, we now probably have an uplift of about 82%. So it's going to bring thousands of new residents into the town, a town that has approximately 3,300 households. So proportionately, that's much higher numbers than some of the other better connected towns in the district. With local reorganisation underway, Sevenoaks District Council will cease to exist by 2028. Decisions now will shape our community long after the current council is gone. So it's vital that we speak up while we can. Tonight we'll provide a quick overview of what's in the draft local plan, where to find the documents. We'll show you how to navigate the evidence base and explain how to review key policies. Most importantly, we'll discuss how to make your comments count, highlighting the kinds of responses that are taken seriously and those that are not. We'll then have open floor for comments and outline next steps before you leave. I can just... Sorry, this is the actual slide that shows the number of houses. So our goal isn't to oppose growth outright, but to ensure that any development is sustainable, supports local people, and is backed by real infrastructure. We hope you'll leave tonight with the knowledge and confidence to respond to the consultation before it closes on the 11th of December. So thank you for being here, and let's get started.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, now what we thought when this happened last time round, a lot of people were confused about what the local plan was and how to understand it and where to find the documents and all that sort of thing. So I will apologise in advance if I'm teaching some of you to suck eggs, but I thought this would be useful as a little run through. So basically you can find it on the Sevenoaks website, Sevenoaks District Council website. It's currently front and centre, local plan, and you can click on where it says view details. Nice and easy so far. Essentially, the first thing you find on that page as you scroll down is take our online survey. This is not a survey. This would be your actual response. So you might want to hang fire on that until you've read a few of the documents. And then when you're ready, return to it. If you scroll down to the bottom of that same page, you'll find some interesting bits. So, view the local plan will take you to the actual document. You've got questions and answers. You can view the sites either as a digital map or a PDF. You've got the local plan timetable and updated evidence-based documents. So I've highlighted a couple there. Obviously, you want to view the local plan. That's a key thing. Knowing where the sites are is important as well. And I'll cover evidence base in a moment, but essentially they are the studies underpinning the plan and policies. So if you click on View the Local Plan, it takes you to a download document. And some people don't like downloading things, or they, I know on the site that there is an embedded version of this, but it's a bit clunky. I've had a go at it myself, so it's probably better to download it. Word of warning for those who haven't seen it, it's a beast. It's about 330 pages long. My suggestion is to use it almost as a reference and focus on the key sections that interest you rather than trying to read it end to end, because I feel like you'd maybe give up and go watch EastEnders or something. So it's up to you entirely what you do, obviously, but just a suggestion. So on pages 10 and 11 in the local plan, and this is being recorded if you need to go back, but you'll find it anyway, is a lovely, colourful list of all the policies. The policies are the backbone of the plan. So the idea here is that you would scan and pick the policies you have views or evidence on. They're quite handily colour-coded, and there's page numbers for a quick jump to wherever you want to go. Pretty much everything else in the document leads to these policies. And this is a really important point. Very much like in a government or a company, policies determine planning decisions, and these policies will determine the planning decisions in our area until 2042. And this is your one opportunity to comment on them. So once adopted, local plan policies will become the statutory basis for deciding planning applications. So, as a bit of a deep dive, just say we've chosen policy H1, which is housing mix. So this is an example of a policy. To the left there, you'll see some wording, if you like. That's the justification for the policy. It's based on Sevenoaks District Council's evidence and reasoning. And on the right-hand side, you actually see the policy itself. So sometimes in the document, you will find just policies, and they don't appear to have that justification. If that happens, then go to the evidence base, which you can click on. I showed you where to find that. And you will find it. An example of that is EDN1, which is Edenbridge Town Centre. The justification for that is in the evidence base. The sites themselves are also in a policy. They're policy ST2, and it's got all of the sites across the Sevenoaks district. So if you scan down, you'll find the ones that say Eden. It's actually Eden 1 to 16, and then policy GT1 has got Eden 17 in it. So those are the 17 in total. And that gives you the numbers, and it goes down into a bit of a deeper dive as to what they are. So let's move on to the evidence base. So this is a little list of what's inside there. When you actually look at the evidence base, there's a lot of documents in there, but they are under these main headings. So I've highlighted a few there that I'm interested in, but you might find other things more interesting and decide you're going to go look at those. Things like economy and viability, green belt environment, transport and infrastructure. The one thing I have noticed in there is there are some documents that are quite old. So it might be interesting to review some of those and see if you think they're still valid, because that in itself could provide a challenge. So you may be thinking, how much time is this all going to take? It sounds like it's a full-time job. So you don't have to do it all, like I said. Pick a level that pretty much fits your time. So I've given you a couple of examples there. If you haven't got that much time, perhaps you just pick the policies themselves that interest you, read through them and do a deeper dive into those. If you've got a bit more time, maybe you read a bit of the justification that's in the local plan document and the policy that goes with it. Or if you're really keen, you can do those two things and also go and look in the evidence base. The most important thing is that you are able to submit a response and you don't get so bogged down in the thing that you lose interest. Okay, I've made a big mess of the table and I'm now going to hand over to Sally-Ann.
Okay, responses that count. Okay. So the first thing to know is that you must use your own words, and that copying and pasting somebody else's response or templates will get far less weight. The council wants to hear your view, your voice, and the impacts that you can point to. So some of the questions you might ask, or the knowledge, might be around some of these topics here. How you feel about the housing, what do you think is the impact on traffic? These sort of questions will start to stimulate possibly some of the questions or comments that you want to make. So what does count mean in planning terms? So decision makers can only consider what they call material considerations. That's planners speak for issues like traffic and transport, local services, such as schools, GPs, dental capacity, power and water utilities, flooding and drainage, green belt and natural environment. It's not an exhaustive list here, but you get the gist. What doesn't help? So if you put in a response like these, it's not going to help us. So I don't like the house, it's lowered my house price, I don't like developers, I don't like change. Those are understandable feelings, but they're not material planning terms, so they won't count. So choose a topic that's important to you, provide your local evidence and your local knowledge. Ask for what you want. This is another point that everybody needs to take on board. It's not all about just saying we don't want this, we don't want that, we don't want the other. You need to say what you do want as well. So for an example, in relation to a policy around water and wastewater, you might ask, please, that Edenbridge sites require you to deliver a needed water supply and water treatment upgrades before homes are occupied. So you're actually stating what you would want to happen in the plan. Make your point, keep it short. Focused comments beat long general rants. So you speak in your own words, you stick to the material planning issues and ask for specific change. That's how your response carries real weight. So I'm going to, we're jumping up and down a little bit here. There's one person who unfortunately is not being able to join us tonight, so we're just covering that.
Oh, do you want this back? I don't want it. Hello. I do feel like Jack in the Box. Okay, so this was my colleague Claire, who wasn't going to be here, but I'll do my best. So this is an example of an evidence-based document. It's called the Settlement Hierarchy, and it's the core, really, of the local plan. It provides a framework for comparing settlements via a scoring system. Okay. In Sevenoaks District Council's words, it's to define the role, function and sustainability of each settlement and their capacity to accommodate future development requirements. But does this scoring system reflect the reality of Edenbridge? For example, looking at transport, there's no scoring for each settlement's access to major roads. That's bad for us because we don't have any access to major roads, so we would have not scored well on that. But Sevenoaks District Council places significant scoring emphasis on rail services, for example, for transport. So now let's look at Edenbridge's rail services in comparison to Swanley and Sevenoaks. You cannot see that, don't worry.
If I turn the lights down, you can't really see the slide.
They won't be able to see that anyway, to be honest.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
you can't, it's very out of focus.
As long as you don't switch your lights off entirely, I won't be able to see what I'm doing. It's bad enough as it is. Right, hold on, everyone. Watch out, disco. Okay, is that better? Yeah? Okay, cool. Oh, God, no, step too far. Step too far. Okay, thank you very much. All right, so you can't see this, but at the top of the table is the settlement hierarchy scoring. Sevenoaks counts for 20, Swanley for 9, and the two Edenbridge stations together, 10. So in theory, that makes us sound better than Swanley. Let's look a bit more closely at that. Looking at peak times, that's 4:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., although I'm not sure who gets a train at 4:30 in the morning. Are you mad? Basically, Sevenoaks has 62 trains, 47 direct to London. Swanley 50 trains, 29 direct to London. And Edenbridge combined 20 trains, 5 direct to London. And also, if you look at the London destinations, Sevenoaks go to 7 different destinations, Swanley 5 and Edenbridge 1. Not comparable. In my view, that's not comparable and it makes no sense at all. Let's look at train station performance for the previous 6 months. SDC say there's no clear way to accurately measure and record the reliability of these specific services. Well, that's strange, because on-time trains measures it very clearly. For example, Sevenoaks is 60% on time, Edenbridge Town is 29% on time, and ranked 2,383rd nationally. This means that the settlement hierarchy is misrepresenting real access. So the risk here, as we're talking about risks, is a misleading transport score inflates Edenbridge and masks poor rail access, despite the fact we have 2 stations. So this slide, again very small, I'm sorry, shows station overviews. Swanley and Sevenoaks have decent station facilities. Edenbridge is poor, and Edenbridge Town has some facilities, but poor staffing. There is generally poor accessibility at Edenbridge stations for the disabled and elderly. And we have heard some talk of making it easy one side to let disabled people get on, but not really what happens the other side when they come back. So the risk is rapid growth on top of Edenbridge's under-equipped, poorly accessible stations will push trips to cars, exclude disabled and older users, and make new development unsustainable. We would need Swanley-level rail service, really, to make that work. Okay. This is talking about the Uckfield to London Bridge line, so that's our line. And we wonder if SDC has considered how many passengers these other developments will generate, because they're all going to get on the same train. New homes on the Uckfield to London Bridge line, 6,357. Network Rail themselves, in their Framework Capacity Statement 2024, states that the line has very little spare capacity. The risk is that our rail service does not have the capacity to accommodate future developments. Can SDC provide the evidence that they do? So that wraps up our example. We wanted to show you an example of using the evidence base and digging into the documents in there. This document is the settlement hierarchy, and I suggest it's one that you look into because there are lots of other examples like that. I think this is your turn.
Sorry, we would have changed the presentation around, but unfortunately we didn't know until about half an hour before the event, so we are running with it as it is. So we're now going to look at another policy and how we would look at that. And this is one that doesn't have an explanation in front of it, so you would have to delve into the evidence-based documents to find this information. So what we would look for is what's promised, how it's funded, who's accountable, and what's realistic for delivery. So let's start with a bit of a reality check. Edenbridge has lived with decades of underinvestment. We've lost core services, a local hospital, a police station, a manned station, and the decline shows in the high street too. We have the highest vacancy rates of the district centres. And we also are above the national average on this. The retail floor space is constrained and the mix is skewed towards cafes, takeaways, nail bars and hairdressers. Many of the shop fronts are dilapidated and some of the high streets struggle to attract enough business. So residents of Edenbridge catchment have a higher than average propensity to use the internet. So that's really our baseline, that's our starting point. So what does the policy promise? Well, EDN1 is aspirational. It promises shopfront renewal, better public realm and river access, safer walking routes, new and enhanced community and youth facilities, explicitly including a leisure centre, an all-weather pitch, bandstand, skate park and secondary school. On paper, that's wonderful, and there's many of us here that would love to have those things. But what consideration has been given to the evidence and the actual trends? Has there been a reality check on what might survive and thrive? Particularly in the shopping high street, given the small size of some of our units and online competition, Edenbridge's high street needs more residents living centrally to sustain everyday services. Should the policy prioritise mixed-use, brownfield town centre housing, this could boost footfall and businesses and reduce pressure on our release of our green belt. There are other things we need to be thinking about. The development also shows a delivery gap relating to the leisure centre and pitch. The policy lists a leisure centre and an all-weather pitch as if they're in the pipeline, and yet recent SDC meetings in April and September of this year show that no agreed plan has been found or viable funding. It's been left in managed decline, and that's exactly the sort of gap that we must highlight. I, for one, would love to see a floodlight pitch reinstated in our town for the young people and for some of the sports clubs as well. So we test the promises against funding and delivery. That's what we're looking at. And that's where there's a bit of a wobble, because the policy states projects delivered by partnership with SDC, KCC and ECC, with potential funding from nearby developments, which is vague. Given we face local government reorganisation, and if SDC disappears into a larger unitary, Edenbridge risks becoming a distant corner with no single owner for delivery. Who writes the bids? Who signs the cheques? Who reports progress? These are delivery critical questions that the EDN policy doesn't answer. The strategy leans heavily on external grants, but this would need a dedicated funding lead, which is not mentioned. Without a named lead, a timetable and ringed, fenced, matched funds, a grant-led development can translate into it's not happening. So our ask, as we were then to look at our asks, if we were examining this policy, we'd ask for a policy to be tightened so delivery is credible, not just hopeful. And we would itemise these. We would ask for a named project delivery owners, hard milestones, secured or clearly phrased funding, and tools that directly tackle some of the known problems. We're going to be doing another swap. Here we go.
Right, we're getting there, everyone. How are you finding it so far? All right? Yeah? Okay, good. Okay, so now we're going to look at, this time, affordable housing. So we've chosen another one. And so basically the opening, this is an example of doing a deep dive into one of the policies and looking at the risks in it, okay? So the opening line here, you cannot see that, but trust me, H2, policy H2, talks about boosting the supply of affordable housing Sounds good, eh? Well, sneaking in the viability arguments, weakening the target. So basically that says in there, affordable housing, ensuring that overall viability is not prejudiced, which basically means if it's viable, right? So immediately that's weakening that promise. There's no every phase rule. So what sometimes happens is developers will have to do a certain amount of affordable housing, but their development is built in phases. So what they do is they build all the houses they're going to make the money first, and then the social housing afterwards. So we would ask, really, that social housing and affordable housing as well are built at every phase. There's a missing tenure split. So when you're looking at the policies, you're not just looking at what they're saying. Sometimes you have to look at what they're not saying. And what that means is what the split would be between, for affordable housing, how many would be shared ownership and how many would be social housing. And actually, there's a loophole here about on-site build, where they can actually pay money instead of building affordable housing at all. So those are all risks. Moving on. There's more. Oh, this page, H28, seems to answer the tenure split. It says, there's going to be 80% social, 20% shared. But then that's undercut by unless otherwise agreed. You might as well not write it. Okay? H29 says no grey belt viability cuts, which basically means, they have to build so much affordable in a grey belt. But H2, 10 and 11, the ones just underneath it, allow reduced on-site or cash in lieu. So that is a mixed message. What are they saying? H212 should not generate housing costs, basically for people, of less than or equal to 35% of someone's median income. Lovely. This ignores service charges, renter housing associations, and even shared ownership may then become unaffordable. So these are all things you could pick out of this policy, right? And you could do that with any of the policies. It's looking at what's there, looking at what's not there. Now here's a red herring for you. Housing in rural areas. Okay. You can get something called a rural exception site or scheme, something like that. But those are usually small schemes, usually on the edge of villages and things like that. And so when you read this policy, you need to sometimes decode some of these. Use a bit of Google or ChatGPT or whatever you use. And see that this one wouldn't actually apply to us because it's for these small rural exception type of schemes. Our listed sites will be determined under the main allocation policies, which are the ST2, GT1, and the H2 and H1, H1 and H2 I just showed you. So there you go, I threw in a red herring. But hey, if you want to comment on it, go for it. They might just ignore it, that's all. So, Sally-Ann talked about asking. So we're very good, all of us probably, at saying what we don't like. Don't like this, don't like that. We don't want this. But after we've done this work and we've looked at our policies or the evidence base or whatever we're doing, we need to think about what we do want and what we do want to ask, because this is our time to influence, and our comments might influence what goes into the final policies that go to Regulation 19, which is the next phase, and we'll talk about that at another future meeting. So our headline ask would be 50% affordable, as they're saying most of Edenbridge is now grey belt, with that split, with the 80-20 split for social rent. So local workers and families can generally afford it. And so they stop building on the green belt, because what happens is they say we're going to build affordable housing, they don't do it, and then the need is not met. So then they go, there's a need there, we need to build some more housing, and then they just keep doing that, right? We'd also ask for local people first, a local connection cascade, Edenbridge people first, then nearby parishes, then district, and then wider area for lettings and first sales. And we would like affordable homes delivered from day one and in every phase, so no backloading to the end where they can sneak out of it with viability arguments. We would like developers to show their real costs and sales open book at the start and again later, early and late stage reviews. So if profits are higher than they said, more affordable homes or extra payments are added back. And if it's any lower, any changes agreed in the open. We would like to have to cap and check charges to limit fee rises to the official inflation rate, publish a yearly open book breakdown, and make sure that rent and charges make the same as 35% of the income. And built to needs, so, you know, the mix is led by local evidence, things like that, right? So that's what we would ask for. Right, I'm staying, by the way. I'm staying for this one. Okay, cool. We're getting there. So when you're ready to respond, you go all the way back to the front page where you looked at the Sevenoaks local plan, and you're now ready to take the online survey. It's not a survey. It's your chance to comment. We've been through the magical mystery tool, through the plan, and you will have 2 links there. Comment on policies and evidence-based documents, and that will take you through, it will show you what to do basically as you go through that. The important thing to do is when you're doing your research is to make notes. This is policy number that, this is policy number this, page whatever. So you can go back and easily fill this in. And then obviously you've got the second one there, which is comment on sites as well. So they've done it in 2 separate areas there. Now what if you're not online? There's a lot of people who aren't online. Well, there are paper surveys available from local libraries, town or parish councils, and the Sevenoaks District Council offices. And the idea there is that you would use a separate form for each policy or site you wish to comment on. You can't see this, but when you pick up the form, it does give you all the information on the second page about where to send it to, etc. The forms can't be anonymous, but they won't publish your details, right? So you need to put your name down, but your details won't be published. And essentially, I would always suggest you keep a copy of what you submit as well. It might be useful at Regulation 19 as well later. And I think that's me, actually. Look, all my paper's gone. It's your turn. Yeah, bye.
Okay. So some key dates and further help. A quick heads up on timing and where to get help. The local consultation is now live. It's opened on the 23rd of October and it closes on the 11th of December. This is our window of influence, and once it's shut, it's going to be almost impossible to change anything. After that, the council, Sevenoaks District Council, aims for Regulation 19 in the summer of 2026, with a submission by December 2026. All going well, the examination will be 2027, and if found sound, the adoption late in 2027. But if there's only one date you remember tonight, make it the 11th of December, because you have to get your comments in before then. So we've got some details and handouts on these of drop-in sessions. So if you need help responding or you have questions, then do use the drop-in sessions that are being run. Edenbridge Town Council are running a number of sessions, NEDRA is running some, and Sevenoaks are also running one on Monday the 10th of November. Now that event you will need to book into. There are 3 separate sessions running, I think it's from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock. But you will need to book a place in the hall. So, the floor's going to be open to you all now. Okay. Please can I remind you to use the microphones and keep your comments concise. We've allowed about 2 minutes per speaker, and we will have to interrupt you if you go over this time. So because we want to get as many people sharing comments as we possibly can. And it is important to share comments so that other people can gain an understanding from them. There are 1 or 2 people in the audience who've already asked me in advance whether they can say something. So I will be asking them to wave a card at me, and the microphone will come their way. Would you please use the microphone so that everybody in the room can hear, but also we're going to be circulating this meeting to those who couldn't attend, and it's helpful for them to be able to hear those questions. So I am actually going to kick off the open session with an email that was sent to me by somebody who is actually a disabled a wheelchair user. about Edenbridge station. And their comments are that the Edenbridge station is totally useless if you are a wheelchair user, or indeed anyone with a mobility problem. If you get off on the opposite side to the car park, you are completely stranded and there is no way of getting to the other side. At the moment, I drive to Oxted to be able to use the lift when getting back from London. What would be needed at Edenbridge is a lift and then an underpass to get from one side of the platform to the other. Because if you are using a wheelchair, even though you have a car park potentially, which is great, we really want one of those, if you park your car on one side, how are you going to get back to it? So that is a key issue for them. And it would be amazing, she said, if the platform could be raised level with the train. That would only need to be done in the places that are designated as wheelchair carriage stops. This has been done apparently on CityLink and Blackfriars trams, and no ramp is then required, which is quite a hassle for everybody. She acknowledges that this is going to cost money, but those were her comments about the sort of things that we should be thinking about when we're revamping that station. And I think the feeling is that that station is going to require a lot more than a £1.5 million spend on a car park. It's going to probably take £5 million plus to refurbish that station properly. Anyway, I'm going to open the floor now to people to make their comments. Over to you. So we'll start with a card over there, please. So have I got my microphone, runners?
No, I don't know.
No, Ian, sorry, you able to do it? Sorry, Ian. Grab a microphone. Daisy's coming down there first.
Is it on?
I think Ian's got it now.
Yes, it is. I thought people would like to know that the Edenbridge Footpaths Group volunteers are meeting tomorrow to discuss the impact of the local plan on the public rights of way. And I've got a short message from the chair of our group. She says, we're a group of local walkers passionate about our local public rights of way. And we've done some analysis of the new Sevenoaks local plan, and approximately 1.7 miles of the footpaths will no longer be in open countryside. She says, I expect that we as a group will be opposed to this. As a group, we're also going to be working, though, to make sure that any affected footpaths are incorporated into plans in an appropriate and safe way. As one of the golden rules for building on grey-belt land is giving the public access to new green spaces, we will also aim to suggest new footpaths. And I've got some personal observations to add to that, as I think that the impact on people using the footpaths will be felt well beyond the areas proposed for the developments. And I started looking at the local plan evidence documents relating to the green belt, and I'm extremely concerned that great swathes of the green belt around Edenbridge have now been categorised as grey belt. And this largely seems to be for the following reason for the different parcels of land. It does not play a role in maintaining Edenbridge's historic setting or preserving its special character. This is due to a lack of visual, physical or experiential connections between the sub-area, which is just a parcel of land, and the historic core. But for me, Edenbridge's special character is that it's still a rural town with easy access to proper countryside for walkers living anywhere in the town. It's physically connected to at least some of the newly categorised grey belt by footpaths. It's also part of its special character that when you walk in the countryside around Edenbridge, you can rarely see more than the church spire. And I think that the proposed overdevelopment of Edenbridge will mean that walkers will see housing estates. How can they think that this will not affect its historic setting or special character? To me, it's a technical assessment that ignores the experience and habits of the people who live here, and I would very much urge people to look at that Greenbelt information and include comments on it when they respond. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, can I have anybody else? Yes, there's two cards there. There's a...
Is that on? Yes.
Yep. If you want to stand up, you can. Otherwise, yes.
No, I'm all right.
You're right.
So actually this is from Jeremy, who also lives in Mead Road, but he's in Paris. Lucky Jeremy. So I'm speaking about site MX21, which is the land east of Mead Road, also known as Eden 15 in the draft local plan. This proposes 120 new homes and 5 traveller pitches, with access from Hever Road and emergency access via Mead Road. The location is simply unsuitable. Firstly, access and safety. Hever Road is already congested with residential parking, tourists and cyclists, and there's a dangerous bend exactly where the estate's junction would be. There is no footpath linking Hever Road to Romany Way. Mead Road itself, as I can attest, is very narrow cul-de-sac, just 2.8 metres wide, with on-street parking and no pavements, hardly suitable for ambulances or fire engines as it is. Secondly, our connecting roads can't absorb this traffic. Surrounding roads are regularly flooded, and Kent County Council's own highways view is clear. It says that there are no obvious improvements to bring these roads up to principal route status. Thirdly, infrastructure is constrained. Assessments show limited capacity in the sewerage and water networks to handle this development. Fourth, this is Greenbelt. Releasing it would harm biodiversity and the open character that benefits the whole community. It is also the wrong place. It sits at the far southern edge of town, too far from the medical centre and both train stations for families and older residents to walk. And finally, there is already a high concentration of traveller sites on Hever Road. Adding another there would exceed best practice levels and be unfair to both existing traveller community and residents. There's also, on the Romany Way site, there are vacant plots, so I'm not sure why they're not using those. 5 pitches do not justify releasing a large greenbelt site for 120 homes. There is actually, Jeremy has put together a really good fact sheet, which I've printed off and put on the table at the back if anyone wants it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think we can also circulate that for you, for people to help people. Any more arms waving around?
Got a lady here.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll take the lady at the back, and then I think there's one in front of Ian as well. Thank you.
I have heard that we have won the battle for the crossing opposite the doctors, but can you tell me when it's going to take place, please?
I can't tell you when it's going to take place, but I'm going to ask Robert Mayle, who's here today. He actually has helped us in that process. Do you want to have a comment on that, Robert? So it's the crossing by the medical centre that you met with the highways guy. So Robert Mayle is the KCC Edenbridge representative.
Stand up.
No, whatever you feel comfortable with.
I went round with Nigel Rowe and Caroline, the clerk for the Town Council, a few weeks ago. Nigel had a look at the 4 Elms Road, and he's fairly confident that it would be suitable to have a pedestrian crossing there. So that's a bit of good news.
It is, thank you. Thank you very much.
That's a $1 million question. When? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, with all this building going on, you'll have a lot of SIL money to splash around. So
Maybe.
My understanding of these pedestrian crossings can cost up to sort of £80,000 plus, which is...
Okay, all right. Well, it's good news to hear that potentially we may have that. Angela, I don't know whether you want to add a further comment on that.
Only that they're waiting for some technical reports to be done before it can be progressed any further. So it's the surveys have got to be in place. So it's great that they're even considering it. So,
brilliant. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, can I move on to anybody else who's who's wanting to ask a question. So there's a gentleman. There's two gentlemen here.
Hi, yeah, it's just a quick question for clarification. Firstly, thank you very much for a really helpful presentation. Really very, very grateful for that. As relates to the grey belt and green belt issue, what I wasn't sure about when we're writing our responses, I'm assuming the grey belt designation is a done deal. So is there there's no point in arguing the designation of an area of grey belt? Is that just a waste of time?
That's a very good question.
Argue. I just wouldn't,
argue.
Sure, I just wouldn't want to waste, if it's something that is a done deal and isn't to be considered, then it's pointless railing against it. It's just that. Thanks.
Okay.
It's a bit loud, sorry. I did ask the actual question too, and my understanding is that it's because it's the MPPF, it's national, it's not local rules, so we have to play by them. It's not something that the local plan and SDC will be able to change. It's that grey belt designation has come from government. So I don't think it's, my understanding is that, that it's
so is it worth raising an objection that it's been lost from the point of view, obviously, of our own historic environment, but also our health and well-being? So there's a knock-on, isn't there, to... I know it's grey belt.
I couldn't answer that. I only literally asked that question because I did, but I'm not sure if there's any other district councillors in the room.
Hello, Penny's got a
Okay. Sorry, I might be able to help you a little bit on this. Name's Ken Foster. I'm a consultant engineer.
Can you hold the microphone?
Sorry, name's Ken Foster. I'm a consultant engineer. So two things on this designation. The first one is I've had an email today from Tom Tugendhat around the background to the redesignation around that. And as Andrea has pointed out, it comes from a piece of changed legislation, and there's been a change in targets that's caused SDC to have a 63% uplift in their development that they're required to do. So it is, as Andrea says, it's a third. It's outside the control of Sevenoaks. The other thing about it is the designation of grey belt and green belt. The evidential report that was done by Arup in 2023 had a list of the standard requirements that need to be met in order to designate something grey or green belt. That came up with most of the sites being not recommended in 2023. However, that report was redone earlier this year, and requirement C seems to have been dropped, and most of that was not recommended for development now is coming into the grey belt on score. Yeah. I've got to be honest, a lot of it was discounted as first-class agricultural land, and I'm not sure exactly what's changed. It's just the assessment criteria, so there'll be an element of direction in there.
Okay, thank you. And I think Penny just wanted to round off on that topic.
So this is just a personal opinion, but I did start looking at the revised report into the green belt and grey belt. And yes, it is based on national legislation, but as far as I can see, it's the consultant's interpretation of the legislation, and interpretation is always open to question. Yep. So personally, I certainly intend to challenge the arguments that they put forward for categorising it as grey belt.
Okay, thank you. I've got a gentleman, I've got Jim at the back. Ian could just pass that.
Hello, thank you for letting me have a quick word. I think this, when it comes to this designation about grey belt, it's interconnected with the things like the settlement hierarchy, and also things like the station, because if you look at the rules around grey belt, it's to do with connectivity, and it's to do with how much transport infrastructure there is around. And as you pointed out earlier on, some of the way the classification is being done on the railways and so on, it makes no sense at all. But because if you accept that, then the knock-on effect is to start reclassifying some of the green belt as grey belt because it's interconnected. So when you're looking at responses, what you've got to do is not just take, although each one is a response against an individual policy, bear in mind that these are interconnections, and therefore that something that you may object to or want to make comment on one may be answered or may be a knock-on from some other policy. So you do have to do a bit of work and a bit of digging, just as Debbie was saying, to make sure you've got the facts right, and you may want to end up commenting on several policies around the same issue. And so I'm not totally convinced that the grey belt argument is finally done and dusted. I think it's fairly close to being done and dusted, and I think there is pressure coming from central government about that. But to be fair, this will come down, whatever the complexion is from central government, on whatever party, whatever their rules are, there is pressure for building houses, and whatever party or whatever complexion of whatever the colour it might be from the centre, there would be similar pressure coming down about building more houses and redesignating some of this area, some of these areas. So therefore, you've got to bear in mind this is a wider than any one particular party. You can't just blame it on the central government. This is a general issue, and it's a general issue affecting all over the country. And there are other areas. If you just want to have a look and see what the impact might be, have a look behind Chiddingstone, behind the little brown jug. Because there's a station at Penshurst, they're getting about 400 houses suddenly being dumped on the green belt there. And that redesignation is down to the fact that they're close to Penshurst station. And that's what I mean by infrastructure.
Okay, thank you. Just a point on to follow up on that. When you go onto the website to respond to the survey, it will take you through initially, I think, comments about sites. I'm looking at Debbie. And then there is a section at the end which is overreaching. So if you wanted to make more general comments about infrastructure or a particular policy or whatever, it doesn't have to be completely site focused. There is a section, I think, at the end where you can add further comments. Thank you. Right, I'm going to go to the gentleman in the blue top and then back at one stage.
Thank you. It's just a very quick one, which is we hear about the secondary education. I wonder if we're actually considering the primary education, because there's no way, of course, the current primary education school there would actually take an 86% increase, and or the villages around. So it's more than just saying let's have a secondary school. It's how the heck are we going to cope with all the children that are going to come with those houses?
Yes, that's a very good point. Very good point. Okay. If you pass it forward, and then I've got a gentleman with a card just further back who's going to make a comment.
Just a quick one. That's pretty much a question for the Edenbridge Town Councillors, I guess. I'm assuming they will be making a response as the Town Council. Assuming that is the case, will that be available to the public to see? Because it would be helpful, as presumably as long as people agree with the submission from the Town Council, to reiterate that, so that we're showing a sort of united response. And I think, hopefully, because a lot of the councillors will have more experience in dealing with the intricacies of the planning process, then we could garner helpful tips and good practice. Thank you.
Did you want to? There. Poor Angela's in the front room,
okay.
working hard.
Yes, we definitely will. We'll be responding on all of the sites. We're working with the planning consultant, and the last Reg 18, it was all published on our website as we made the representations on behalf of the council. So yeah, we will.
I think one thing to point out is possibly that for Edenbridge Town Council and their drop-in sessions, and you might be handing the microphone back, but they have to keep a neutral stance. Am I correct in saying that for your drop-in sessions? So they won't be able to share their comments in those sessions?
No, I mean, I think the drop-in sessions for everyone is just for us as councillors to come and listen to what you all have to say, because we are representing you. And when we will be working with the planning consultant to help us draft some responses, I mean, we're not going to be telling you we hate every site, but then no one, because we are, and as district councillors, we will be considered predetermined when we are be the ones that are going to be voting on it as well. So, yeah, we are going to try and keep, obviously, you know, we try and keep neutral, but we have all got our own
opinions. Okay,
Yes.
all right. Oh, right, okay. I've also got one at the back, I think has got a card. Just wanted to, and then we'll come forward. Have I got that person to make a comment? Oh, no, it's gone back. So, no, it was Paul, actually. I think Paul wanted to make a comment.
I think it may already
Or
with
could-
the railway situation and settlement hierarchy.
Okay, so your comment was around the strengths of the hierarchy, rationale and methodology. So there was a challenge on that.
Could I
Hayden.
just say something? There is an infrastructure delivery plan document. It's the Sevenoaks District Council that have put forward that document. And it's developed by consulting the infrastructure providers such as water, roads and electric. And in that document, they're looking at the amount of houses that we're being expected to take. And SES Water states that if we do have that amount of houses, they need to increase the clean water capacity for Edenbridge. And if they do that, the extra demand will degrade the resilience of the network. So basically, and I don't know when they've asked that question, because it depends, like you've pointed out earlier, we've already had quite a few houses built, probably before these questions. And it could be that we have a problem with water.
Yes.
That we may end up with no water being switched off. And I think that's quite important, really.
Yes, I must admit, I'm not aware of any new reservoirs being built in Kent, so I think we are going to face problems with all these houses. The microphones have been passed to the back. Ian, are you there? Who's got the microphone at the moment? You have. Okay, thank you.
Just on the grey belt again, can we have or get access to the criteria for grey belt and the consultant's report?
Yes, they are in the actual plan. Is it in the evidence? So in the link. So if you go to the Sevenoaks District website and go in there and scroll down to the page, you'll see a link called evidence-based, and they will be in there.
Okay. Reports there,
yeah.
There's a huge amount of the support documentation sitting in there for you to have a look at.
Okay. Have we got any? I've got a gentleman right at the back. Yes, no, right at the. Well, we'll have that one, and then could we pass to the back?
I'd just like to make a comment. You mentioned earlier about local facilities. One thing that we do have is an all-weather pitch by the sports hall, which is last 2 years has just been allowed to go into decay. With this extra population, lots of people, young people particularly, I think it's a crying shame that is not put in a suitable case for use for clubs and local schools.
I think it is being considered, and I think we should support that, because I agree with you. I would like to see that all-weather pitch put back for the young people and for the sports clubs. Ian, sorry, can I ask you to pass? There's a young gentleman right at the back who wants to make a comment, and we'd love to hear from the younger generation.
Swan Lane is a narrow country road with lots of traffic going down it every day on a good day, with no pavement going along it where the houses are proposed to be built. What is going to be done with the traffic after all 600 or so houses are built on the Eden 16 site, as Swan Lane has not been designed to handle that much traffic, especially how narrow it is, and for people wanting to walk from the housing development straight to the main road instead of walking all the way down Swan Ridge, Ridgeway, Pit Lane, and then down Swan Lane onto the main road.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comment. Thank you. Right, I think we've got gentleman here. You've only got 2 minutes. I'm going to be cutting you off otherwise. And then it'll go to the back, and then we'll move it down.
Go back first, yeah.
Oh, you've been bypassed. Right.
Sorry, just following on from the young gentleman at the
Yep.
back on Swan Lane. I live on Swan Lane.
Okay.
And we've obviously spoke about trains, but also need to think about the bus infrastructure.
Mhm.
Our children get the bus to school.
Yep.
Those buses are already full, and they
Mhm.
spend a lot of time waiting for
Yep.
an empty bus. Obviously, we need much improvements in the buses as well.
Yep.
And
Yep.
to echo the young gentleman's point there around traffic, with obviously more children, no pavements.
Yes. Yep.
You know, it's
Okay. Yep. No. Good points. So when the people are making these comments, it's good to sort of help other people to understand what some of these challenges are going to be and where we need to challenge.
One of the points I wanted to make is someone has used the Edenbridge to London Bridge line for many, many years, is the fact that the line's unsustainable anyway because it's not electrified. And therefore, having a diesel-supported line, the line will ultimately have a shelf life because Southern Railway bought all the remaining diesel kind of rolling stock from the West Coast main line that used to service Bristol to Paddington. And that will kind of collapse at one time or another. So besides all of the infrastructure that's needed in Edenbridge Station, the entire line needs to be electrified, and that will cost hundreds of millions of pounds. And whether Network Rail invests in that is very, very important because it will come to a point where it will ultimately collapse, right, with all of these houses and additional kind of thing. So it's important that Network Rail kind of make that point as clearly as we do as well.
Okay, thank you. Kim. Who else have we got? Yes. Thank you.
It's more a question on procedure on replying back to the council. Do they count each household as a collective response, or can individuals in the household
individuals
give individual response?
This is a very important point. It's absolutely every single adult within a household. It's not just one household. So please, everybody in the household should respond, please. Thank you. Oh yeah, don't. I've just had a nudge from my colleague at the front, but don't copy each other. Your own words, please. Yes. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Sally Ann. I'll stand up for this one. Clive Pearman, one time county councillor and also town councillor in Edenbridge. When we first started off in this new organisation, I voluntarily undertook to keep in track of what was happening with the planning and infrastructure bill. That's it. It sent me to sleep at night time because there was nothing in here that anybody would disagree with. So why was it here? It was waiting to be approved. And then, of course, governments change and other people get elected. A question which has a serious responsibility. Who here takes the Daily Times newspaper? Right. Yes. Right. Let me remind you about one thing only.
Can you hold the microphone as close as possible?
While I just move around.
Yep.
I'll get this right one time. The essence is not just that plans are being changed and that productivity is being changed, and this current government, whichever political colour you want to describe it as, and the opposition as well. There's a phrase I'm going to use, but you're a nice people, so I'm not going to use it. They're up that street quite far now, and they don't know where to go. What it says is, not there, but somewhere here. Headline: cities will expand to stop suburbs blocking homes. Now, you all know this anyway, and Sally Ann would know it. City boundaries across England will be expanded as Labour seats to stop district councils standing in the way of house building. Cities including Exeter, Oxford, Plymouth, Nottingham will be governed by bigger and more powerful local authorities in charge of planning, transport and skills. So you can see everything here. What we think we've got hold of now is perhaps phase 1. Phase 2 has yet to be identified. Ministers hope to grow cities by connecting urban and suburban areas under the same councils. Well, yeah, they were going that way anyway. That's not new.
Okay, Clive, we're going to have to hand the microphone over. Do you want to make a final statement?
Yes, I will. The final comment is nobody should be elected to a local council who is not a member of this organisation here, because if they're not a member of this organisation, they are not committed to what we believe in as residents. That's the first point. The second point is we need to acknowledge that this is going to be a long-term investment, and we need to be there for the end. As far as I'm concerned, and probably everybody here, we're here for the duration. What we think is here today will change tomorrow, and in 6 months' time it will be completely different. But the principles will be the same.
Okay.
If local residents don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. Forget the councillors, particularly those who are district and above.
Okay,
Sally,
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, who have I got? Have I got anybody who hasn't spoken? Is there anybody in the room who hasn't spoken who would like to? Yes, can we just... can I just come back to you in a second?
I just wanted to ask more of a question around, there's been lots of really good observations and detail on some of the plan tonight, and I know certainly when I'm trying to draft my own response, it would be helpful to have access to that information.
Yep.
Whether NEDRA will be making some of this available on the website or allowing people to put their views forward on the website so that others can share and benefit from those observations as well.
Okay, well, we will be circulating a recording of this meeting, and there will be some information. I'm looking at Debbie here because she's the one who deals with the website.
Can I have a right to reply, please?
You've made me get up again, which is bad. Yes, I mean, what we've...
Reply, please, that last comment.
Sorry, Jim, hold on, we're just answering the question. Yes, we can put some of this stuff on, but much in the same way that Edenbridge Town Council will publish theirs. What we're worried about, because this goes back to what counts and what doesn't count, is if people do copy-paste or if they say the same thing or whatever, it'll just be discounted. So we will publish certain things on the website, yeah? But probably not going to publish the whole thing. When we publish the whole thing, you'll see that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I hope that helps.
We'll be trying to feed out information, but we won't be necessarily giving a template to use, if that's what you mean. Okay, so we're going to ask Jim, I'm going to pass him the microphone in a minute, but can I just ask that we don't turn this into a political scenario. We are here to talk about the local plan and what it means for you and what some of the comments might be that you want to make. But I will give Jim an opportunity just to respond, but can we keep it brief, please?
Yeah. Yes, I just wanted to say that I understand where Clive was coming from about being a member of NEDRA. It's not about politics. What I'm saying is that when there's a district councillor, we have to be neutral. When we go in to do a vote, if we're a member of an organisation and it's blatantly obvious, that people can claim that you come in there predetermined. Therefore, even though I support NEDRA to the hilt, and you know I have from the start, it's very important that you do keep this slight distance away from it, so when you can go into the vote, you can't be challenged and so on. So I don't agree that you should be a member of NEDRA. If you're not a member of NEDRA, you should get elected. There are very valid reasons why you've got to keep an element of independence. Why also it's important we get the views of everyone from any shade of opinion, any party. It doesn't really matter about parties at all. What matters is that you comment, and you comment honestly, and you comment on your own views. And you also give us the ability, enough ammunition, to reflect whatever the views of Edenbridge are. And I suspect that would be echoed by Angela, and I would suspect that Alan and Margot would say the same, that we have to keep our independence, we have to take the views of everyone into account, and we will vote representing the views of Edenbridge, not our own personal views. We'll take everything into account when we get there.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. Can I pass that? There's another... Oh, there's a microphone. You've got the microphone even. Right, thank you.
Thank you. I'm asking a question about Eden 16, the largest
proposed development of 600 units.
This is the Swan Lane development, correct?
Well, Swan Lane and Marpit Hill and the main road.
Yes.
It is very large, and we've talked. It says that it's going to be mixed use.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not entirely sure what mixed use means. I understand it's going to be 50% social housing. Affordable housing. Sorry. But what about shops?
Well, I haven't actually gone into great detail on that particular site, but mixed use normally does mean commercial and housing as well. It could be anything. So, and there is a concern that we could start drifting the high street away from the centre with developments like that. But okay, thank you. Is there anybody? Can I just ask somebody who hasn't had a microphone, please?
Hi there. I'm not from Edenbridge, but we are from. Sorry, but we really admire what you're doing. You know, we're not from Edenbridge, but we admire what you're doing. But I had a very practical point really about the voting and how, you know, options 1, 2, or none of the above might be taking shape here. And I just wondered if there was any comment on that, because some of the options don't just include housing. It's also including underneath it all the stadium, for example, and there's other sporting facilities and brownfield sites and so on that are sort of hidden within those options. And so I just wondered if there was a view as to how you would be conducting that, knowing that there's some hidden stuff in there that we may be agreeing to if we're voting for option 1 or 2 that you're not necessarily aware of, obviously, without looking through all of the information. So I know, for example, CPRE is sort of suggesting they're going to go with none of the above because they really want to protect the green belt.
Yeah.
And that they have made that stand for that very reason. And they have also taken advice that it's not going to go to the inspectorate directly if you do vote for none of the above. So I just wondered where NEDRA stood on that, you know, and if there was any sort of understanding how to complete it is one thing, but which option to choose is another debate, really, if there's lots of hidden stuff within that.
Okay, I must admit that question came up on the last one, for not your question, but this thing about choosing between option 1 and 2, and I think it covers such a wide range of issues and policies that I think it's very difficult for the average person like ourselves to make that decision. It does mean, I think as Deb's highlighted, that the policies within this local plan are really important and they will have much more influence over what's happening in our plan than maybe individual sites. So if there are issues within the local plan that are particularly close to your heart, then you should look at those policies. I don't know the answer to whether, if you say none of the above, that are you saying that those would be discounted, those comments, or?
Thank you. No, I believe that you can still comment on the sites and do exactly what you want to do on the sites, but without having to choose an option that might have some hidden stuff in it that you're not necessarily aware of or paid attention to.
Yeah.
For example, the stadium for 28,000 at Junction 3, you know, is a good example of that, really. And I think, you know, with the Greenbelt thing, obviously that petition is a really good thing if you are going to contest the grey belt definition. If enough people sign that petition, they will have to consider debating it. And that petition could lead to being able to brief MPs about how to redefine grey belt, and whether or not that's been legitimately done by Sevenoaks in terms of the assessment that's been done in 2025 compared to 23. Because some of the, you know, advanced, well-performing green belt has suddenly become poorly performing, and that's debatable as well, I think. So, sorry. Anyway.
No, that's fine. Okay, so my point that was going to make on on that particular issue. Yeah, you can, as you rightly say, you do not have to answer that question. You can go through to the next section. You don't have to choose. You can say none of the above. Yeah, so you don't have to choose one of those particular options. I just wanted to pick up on the lady was referring to a petition, and we have circulated that petition from CPRE, and it's to do with lobbying the government to have a debate regarding green belt and grey belt. Is Nigel still in the room here today? Is he still here? Nigel Britton, is he still here? No. He was here earlier. I was going to ask him whether he could have possibly just clarified any of that point regarding that petition. But we have circulated it. I'm happy to circulate it again. It is worthwhile every single person signing that petition to try and get this debated, because once that definition of grey belt really sticks, it's going to be so hard to protect any of us surrounding green belt. Thank you.
Yep. Hi, Sally Ann.
Hi.
We've talked about infrastructure,
yes,
sewage and water.
Yep.
Are you at the point where you're building an evidence base in terms of representing against what's been submitted to the council?
We have currently approached somebody on the flooding side, yep, and that was a consultant who might help us on that particular side to give a more holistic view regarding the flooding across the whole of Edenbridge as opposed to individual sites. So far, we've not managed to secure anybody who would give us consultation on the infrastructure, but I don't know if you want to make any comments on that.
I'll happily help. And the other question was brilliant in terms of actually mobilising us to make sure we represent. What kind of volume is required to make a sensible dent into an opinion with the council? How much do we need to motivate everybody?
Everybody. We want everybody. Well,
yeah, I know, but realistically, do we need 500 representations to be reasonably accepted?
It's a question that's been, funnily enough, it's a question that's been asked this afternoon or this evening, and we're trying to get clarification on that. But Edenbridge had one of the lowest response rates. Am I right there? So it is really critical that we respond. This is going to have such a major impact on our town, and so we want everybody, every household and every person, and we will be leafleting every house in Edenbridge because numbers are going to count, and the bigger those numbers, the better. So anybody else on the... Yep.
On the electoral roll that can make representation.
Do you know that one, Nan?
I thought
it was every adult within a household.
Adult, so we're talking 18?
What, over 16, is it? It's
16.
Over 16, yeah, so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but they can, so that's, yeah, whole families, individual. Thank you. Yes, there's a lady, you think you can get to...
Yes, just one point. As an ex-local estate agent for many years, many of the people who bought in the area came here for country reasons. And I'm just wondering what the sort of safety issue is going to be, bearing in mind that most of them, like your colleague, my lady over there mentioned about footpaths, many cyclists in the area, things like that, riders, walkers and dog walkers. What is the plan with regard to access via roads? Because everybody's been talking about railways and buses and things like that and schools. But we only have B roads here and lanes. And when the main road was closed for resurfacing, the nightmare of travelling through Pootings with all the heavy traffic was horrendous for the local residents. So add all these extra houses from all around the town. Whichever way you go, the nearest A road is either the A25 or the 264, which is a long way away. Have they got any plans for improving the road?
Not that we've seen so far.
No. So how are they actually planning that they're going to cope with all this extra traffic with cyclists and things like that on the road?
Okay, so
for a is that relevant when you're?
I think yes. You know, the infrastructure And roads is a really key one, because you cannot expand the bridges that come into Edenbridge without a huge amount of money, huge investment, and we're not clear that that would ever be forthcoming. So those are very valid points.
Whereas
indeed.
Sevenoaks, for instance, is surrounded by A roads and motorway connections as well, which doesn't seem to have been mentioned.
Yes, so if you look, I think there is a map within one of the documents that shows that actually the key connectivity is in the north bit around Sevenoaks, and Swanley, and not down in our corner. So we don't have the same connectivity as the other towns. So that is an important point to make.
Okay. Is there, just one last point, where I live, I regularly see the Kent Sussex air ambulance going over to the local roads and things like that, accidents. Is there any way that we can get information from them as to how many times they have to attend accidents on our local roads at the current time?
There's probably some stats somewhere, but it's where you start to find those. Sorry? Yeah, my colleague at the front says ask the question of them, see whether you can get answers, and then share it, so that we know.
Okay. Right. Okay. Because they're a regular fly past over me. So.
Okay. Thank you. There's somebody at the back who's got a hand up. Who's taken? Is that Ian's been spinning on the spot?
I've got a mic.
Oh, you've got a mic, right? Ros, please.
Thank you for the meeting. As always, it's incredibly helpful. 2 quick questions to which there might not be an answer. About the secondary school, I know in previous discussions about possible housing estates, I think there might have been discussions with the local education bodies about whether or not this proposal for having a secondary school was actually realistic. And I think the answer came back that at that point, no, but maybe with the proposed new number of houses, it really is a different kettle of fish. But I was just wondering if that's seeming more likely. And I've got a second question, which is a bit nebulous, but if they're talking about 2,800 new houses, which from, you were saying 80% more households, is there a sense that many households want to move to Edenbridge? That might not be a question that can be answered, but do you know what I mean? I would advise them to move here, but...
Yeah, I must admit, I'm not sure whether it's still in there, but the original previous consultation had a survey of our local need. I think it was 46 houses, wasn't it? So, I'm not quite sure that there's a mixed match of what's going on there. Regarding the school, yes, the number was floated of about 2,500, and we are now looking at 2,800. But we were told originally that catchment would be across the district and not necessarily in Edenbridge, but unfortunately it is. And I will go back to a previous comment that was made. Yeah, that's great, secondary school. What about our primary schools? What about the schools that are going to feed into that? Debbie's waving her hand about. You can.
Sorry. I was going to say the Four Elms site, I believe the developer pulled out of that recently. However, there's still outline planning permission till 2027. So they might come back, mightn't they, Angela? Possibly.
It will come back.
Like Terminator. So there is still the possibility of a school there, because that was one of the things that was talked about. But the cases... Exactly. Is that, yeah. So that would be the, and I was going to say, where else would it go? But I do remember him standing up at the town meeting, the chap from the KCC, saying it may not even be a secondary school. It could be any school that they choose. So we might get one, but it might not be what we think it is.
Okay. Fine. We're probably getting towards the end of the meeting. Angela, I don't know whether you want to make a final comment on responses.
I wasn't going to say, or I was going to say something, and now I've said too much, so I'm just going to make this very brief. Just really thank you to NEDRA for organising it and for you all coming here and showing how much you care about our town. This Regulation 18, local plan consultation, really will shape Edenbridge for decades, and our home schools, roads and precious green spaces. And as was touched on earlier, last time in the last Reg 18, this is the third effort we've had. Edenbridge had one of the lowest response rates, and even though we then faced one of the largest housing allocations, so we really can't let that happen again. So when the leaflets arrive, which they will, there's some from the Town Council coming out, some from the district, and I believe some from NEDRA. Please make sure you read it, share it with your neighbours, look at the council website, come to our drop-ins, and just make sure your voice is heard, because every single response counts, and together we have to make sure that Edenbridge's future is decided with us, not for us.
Thank you. That's very, very apt. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to bring the meeting to a close, and I want to thank everybody here tonight for their time and for the questions and contributions they've made. Before we close, I'm going to ask first of all, I'm going to thank all our volunteers for all the support they give us, but also a quick ask. We need a few more extra pairs of hands, please, if anybody could help us to deliver leaflets on a street near you, or in just any street that we can find that you will be happy to deliver on, and also to support our drop-in sessions if anybody's happy to do that. So we are a very small committee of dedicated people, but we really rely on the support of our members. So please, if you can help us, we'd be really grateful. And there's a sheet at the back that you can sign up on before you leave. Just even an hour really helps us. I'd also just like to mention we have a couple of people here tonight who've come from Tom Tuganat's office. So they'll be feeding back some of the comments that have been made here today. So we thank them for coming along and giving up their time. Thank you. So to wrap up, tonight's meeting is all about turning your concerns into action. That's what counts. And the local planning consultation is open until the 11th of December. So please speak up for Edenbridge and submit your comments and ask them what you want. Remember, all adults in a household should make a response, and then share that information with friends and neighbours. Encourage them to respond. No matter how small your response or how big your response, just make a response, please. It's a challenge, yes, but it's also an opportunity. So please take it. And thank you very much for coming along tonight. Thank you.
Hello, before you go, I don't know if you missed that, but Angela was just saying that even if you work in Edenbridge, you don't even have to live in Edenbridge, you still can comment because you're a stakeholder in the town. Okay?